Mhm. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Comics for All. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Jameson. I am your host here at Comics for All, a comics librarian where comics, creativity, and community all connect. Today is Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. So thank you for joining us. As part of our weekly interview series called Ink and Insight, we get to interview comic creators from all over the place. And today we have Jesse Switters and Paul Hallgren. So Paul will be joining us here momentarily. But Jesse, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. Great to be on here. I can't wait to talk comics, specifically making them. So thank you for having us
Yes.
on again. I'm look forward to chatting with you and bouncing off of Paul a little bit. We're really excited about issue 4 coming up.
Yeah, I am too. Luckily, Paul was very nice and sent me copies of one, two, and three, and I was blown away by how good it was. I'm like, yeah, I got to keep these guys coming on the channel.
Well, I hope that our passion and our excitement for making these comes through when you read them. And also, we're really proud that we've actually improved our skill level in the first 3 issues. Not that we're not proud of issue 1, but we definitely have noticed that just that raw experience of making books, how can you not get better, right? When you're making 20, 40, 60 plus pages of artwork and 60
Yes.
plus pages of script. So we're really excited. Issue 4, it's just every book just feels different. We have another batch of promo and writing and drawing behind us. So we're leveling up like every time, it feels like. And I just started issue 4 last week, drawing it, and I'm
Ooh,
already finding myself just locking in quicker than I did because I have that experience now. I've been through the pages. I've had the bumps. I've had the hangups and the bottlenecks, and I'm just it's really nice to have that creativity just kind of flow.
absolutely. And so we've got a couple of introductory questions here. So before Smarg, what brought you and Paul together? What kind of creative projects were you working on before you and Paul connected?
Well, I was just trying to hone my skills for the past 15 years. I had
Hmm.
taken an art camp at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. It was a wonderful developmental time for me. I was like a sponge. It was that point in my journey where I wanted to learn everything I could and to improve my craft. So I took a 2-week camp at MCAD, and that was extremely important for my trajectory because those lessons that I learned there I've carried with me all along. I can still remember as if it happened last week some of the experiences I had there, some of the critique over
Yes.
my shoulder, like, hey, you can't do that. That breaks the rule, of the panel. That's confusing. The word balloon looks like it's going in the wrong place. Little things like that that you don't necessarily think about. It was just invaluable to have that feedback in real time from professionals. I had
Yeah.
Ryan Kelly was one of my instructors. He did some stuff for Image and Vertigo in the 90s and the 2000s. Barb Schultz is a very talented comic artist and cartoonist that gave me some invaluable advice. Those are just a couple of them that I worked with, and I carried that with me. I didn't do comics for a long time, but I was constantly attempting to do pages, like practice pages,
Yeah.
pretending to do my own take on Batman and Spider-Man. But I did that for about 10 years because I was getting freelance work doing illustration for musicians and other brands and doing some brand development. So the comics were kind of always on the back burner, on like 3 or 4. It wasn't at a high boil, but it was constantly just kind of simmering back there. And I was just kept on doing it and kept on doing it. And eventually it got to a point where I I can't recall exactly when I decided I'm going to do it, but I feel like resources is a really important thing. What can I do to set aside the time that it takes to make a comic? And for me, that
That's
was
right.
getting a grant to pay for a portion of my time because comics are very time consuming, and the grant was able to pay for printing, pay for some of the artwork, but
Fantastic.
so like that was just enough momentum to get me over the edge. So I was just kind of waiting for that permission, I guess, as a freelancer. It's really hard to set aside 3 months of unpaid work. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
It does. I mean, that's
It's
the
like,
reality is, people still got to pay bills and things. You got to buy food and yeah.
yep, yep. So doing that was just a great way to just kind of get my book out there. And I was just talking to someone in a Facebook group. We were, it's a group where people show their sketches and talk about their workflow and ask questions. And I asked them, someone was commenting like, "Hey, how do I get work?" And I kind of had a light bulb moment where I was like, honestly, you kind of have to find a way to be able to take a calculated risk on yourself.
Yes.
And
That's a
it's
great way
one
to
of
put it,
those
actually.
it's one of those unspoken laws of the universe that, like, if you're not willing to bet on yourself, why would anyone else want to bet on you?
Fair.
So I took that step. My friend helped me write a grant. I got like $1,500 to make a comic, and that is what gave me that boost to quote unquote bet on myself. And it's weird how things work out, but I ended up meeting Paul about 4 months after I finished that little book, that little ash can comic, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Love that connection. And you touched on it a little bit, but what did your own comic book making style or storytelling look like before collaborating with Paul and this wonderful series you guys now have going?
Well, something that I was always interested in when I first started drawing comics was the human figure. I really
Hmm.
enjoy the challenge. I really enjoy the complexity. And as an artist, it's a tale as old as time. I just love just drawing the figure. They've been drawing the figure for thousands of years, and there's nothing cooler than drawing larger than life, muscular athletes like Spider Man, Batman, Superman. And I really like to challenge myself. So for years, I actually did a lot of just drawing every superhero I could think of. I do mashups, like my favorite like battles that didn't happen in the comics. I would draw them myself, and I just kind of let that creativity and that passion for the IP from like Marvel and DC. I let that kind of drive me forward. So it was a lot of studying anatomy, learning muscles, learning bone structure, learning.
Right.
Uh,
Oh, I think we lost him.
Leaning into in order to improve my craft and get better at what I do. But also, you can draw the best figures in the world, but if you can't tell a story that keeps people flipping the page, you're not going to retain your readers. So that is
Hmm.
where just studying the books themselves. One artist that I really love to look at his work is Darwin Cook. Are you familiar with Darwin Cook? I imagine you've
I
read some of
am.
his stuff.
And just a heads up too, Jesse, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
You can hear me, but you can't see me. Okay,
Yes, your screen has gone black, unfortunately.
let's see here.
If you want to
Yeah, I can see you in my monitor. Like I can see me and you in my
huh.
live feed,
As,
but I can't seem to. Hmm.
I'll kick you out and then just re-enter and see if that fixes it. Go. Still nothing.
Still nothing. Let's see here.
Let's see.
Let me turn.
Let's do this. Sorry, folks. We had a technical difficulty. Jesse will hopefully temporarily join us again here in a second. The joys of the internet, folks. That's all I can say. But thank you for joining Comics for All this evening. Hopefully, we can get back online and get going here in a minute, but no rush. If anyone's got a comic they've read recently, feel free to put it in the chat. We can even talk about just what people are reading. Oh, hey, there's Jesse again. Hey, there we go.
All right. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can see you again.
Okay. I can't hear you,
Oh, now you cannot hear me.
which is a weird switch.
No kidding. Oh, looks like we lost Jesse again. What the heck? All right. Well, we'll continue to keep trying here, folks. Looks like, we're having internet difficulties, which is per the norm. So 10 minutes in. But the question we were working on with Jesse, what kind of his personal style or storytelling looked like before him and Paul connected. And I have been working on Smarg now for quite a few years. And issue 4, which is coming out, they're working on it right now. But I do have a cover that was available as a retailer exclusive in Minnesota. So Jesse, I'm sure, can talk more about it when he comes back on. But I absolutely love this cover. I feel like it's very like Marvel-esque. I feel like they just like it's perfectly done. The colors, it's got the representation of Minneapolis and the river there. Um, I don't know if it's really, yeah, the it's super sick cover. Great comment. And we'll hopefully get to talk more about issue 4 here, which I'm sure we will. But if there's anybody out there that is attending, have you read Smarg? If so, what do you think about it? Put some comments in the chat. Here's Jesse again.
I can hear you now.
Hello, hello. We can hear and see you.
Okay.
That happens. My computer literally froze a couple days ago, just in the middle of one of these. It's like, what the heck? But the question we were diving into is kind of what your storytelling and oh, we lost him again. My goodness, just having a tough time here. Hmm. Ooh, Daniel Nicholas, that's a great comment. Each issue is more professional than the previous one. I have to agree. And Jesse was commenting on that. Is that you can tell that their skills, their storytelling, their techniques, the pacing, it's just it gets better each issue. They're getting better and better as creators and storytellers, and it's a really cool thing to see. Thank you, Chima. Hello, hello.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you.
And I'm not getting anything from you.
What in the heck? My microphone is working. Bizarre. I don't understand what is happening. Yeah, people said they can both see us and hear us. Oh, there goes Jesse again. Dang. Let me. I don't know what else to do. Hmm. But again, this is Comics for All, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. And again, thank you for the few folks that are out there with us at the moment. Um, I freaking love this cover. That's all I can really say about it. And we may end up rescheduling this just because we are having some technical difficulties. And Paul is also running a few minutes late, which is totally fine. But again, thank you for joining us, everybody out there. So I really appreciate you sticking around. Hopefully, we can keep trying, and we may end up trying a few more times. And if we can't get it going, we may end up having to reschedule, which is totally fine. I would much rather have a smooth experience for the viewers out there than having to kind of stick and listen to me talk a lot. I don't mind talking, but talking, a lot is not my thing. So has anyone attended a comic convention recently? And if so, put it in the chat. Where'd you go? Where was it? And did you get to meet anyone cool? A comic book person you've been wanting to meet for a while, or was there TV and movie celebrities there too? I know that happens a lot, especially like the fan expos. All right, see if Jesse's trying again here. Hello,
All
hello.
right. I think I hear something.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear.
I can hear you. Yes. Oh, man, just having a hard time for whatever reason.
I can hear you.
I can hear you as well, but I can't see you. But that's okay. We'll go ahead and just do an audio version of this for right now.
Okay.
So, so the
Yeah.
kind of the question.
It's
Go ahead. The question we were going through was kind of what were your personal storytelling in your own voice? Kind of what was that looking like before you and Paul started to collaborate?
Yeah. So my storytelling, when we before we started collaborating, it was just a lot of superhero stuff, a lot of action, punching, dramatic shots, dramatic camera angles. I spent a good deal amount of time on just trying to make work on my figure work, make sure that the physics kind of worked. I learned a lot of good lessons about what poses worked and how to solve problems with like reference and stuff like that. So
Right.
the practice was nonstop and continuous. It just I hadn't found a place to completely throw all of my energy at. So again, it kind of kept building on the side while I waited to maybe for my skills to be where I want them to be, but ultimately it was more so uh, where I was ready to sit down for months on end and work on a project. Committing to something that long term, it's not easy, you know.
No, it's not. And kind of looking back now, what skills or experiences from your earlier work kind of ended up being pretty important once you started working on Smarg?
Absolutely, and all of those hours of practice and all the
Mm-hmm.
time invested, it all pays off. Drawing a face 5,000, 10,000 times, drawing hands. If you can't draw hands well, it's going to be really hard to draw a comic because you're going to constantly be battling with the page. And when you're working on something like that, you have to keep things moving. You can't get too
Yes.
precious. You can't get too perfect. And perfectionism is something that artists fight against anyway. So you need that toolkit to be in the hand. I'm not when I talk about being able to draw well, I don't necessarily mean being able to draw realistically, but being able to draw consistently and convincingly so that the mood and the gesture is conveying what you want it to. So you can draw a
Yes,
hand
absolutely.
in a variety of ways, but if you're drawing it consistently, that's what matters. And if the hands are doing the storytelling efficiently and effectively, then that's what you want. It's not about drawing realistic, it's about drawing consistent and knowing how to use drawing to tell your story, because we can draw a pretty picture all we want, but when we're making comics, the goal is to tell a story.
Correct. And so for the folks out there, just discovering Smarg or just hearing about it, Jesse, if you can, what's the general pitch for Smarg and what makes issue 4 a kind of a turning point for the character and series without too much spoilers?
Well, issue 4 is just a kind of it one of the ways that it ends up being different than issue 2 and 3 is that we immediately jump right into the action from the issue
Mm-hmm.
before. So in issue 3, we end up with a big fight and there's a big culmination of a battle. And then in issue 4, we do start with a short flashback that ties, because the flashback from the third issue, we ease right into the flashback into the fourth issue. So it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
cool little end cap and beginning point, and then we go back to the action again. So it's very compressed. The time between issue 3 and 4 is very quick, so that pacing starts to pick up.
Understood. I know you may not be able to see him, Jesse, but Paul has joined us. And Paul, just a heads up, we can hear Jesse, but he's having video issues, so we're just doing like an audio version with him, so we can continue that. So we're in the kind of creative chemistry phase. How did you guys first realize your creative styles actually clicked? Paul, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, first of all, Jameson, thanks for having us back. Second of all, I apologize. I thought, that we were starting at the oddly specific time of 7:51 Central. No, my my bad. I was working on getting my baby to bed. Um,
No worries.
yeah, so, you know, looking at our creative processes, you know, I've been working on a different project with a different artist before, and when that whole effort. Didn't really get too far off the
Well, thank you
runway.
for everyone who's tuning in and working through this with us. We appreciate you being here. We're really
Absolutely.
trying to, it's fun chatting about this stuff, but as you know, technology can pop up and rear its ugly head from time to time. But and I'm glad that we've been on your show before. We'll be on it again, so we'll always remember this is the show that had technical difficulties.
That's right.
This is true.
I can read some comments here. I can't hear Paul either. Is that where we're at?
Really, you can't hear Paul either. Okay.
Yeah, I can't hear Paul. I can hear you.
You can hear me, but you can't hear Paul. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, Paul's the voice in my head, but I can't hear him. I can't hear him through the device right now.
Hmm. Well, we do have some good comments. Solid artwork from Jesse all the time from Chimakana Kwanabi. I'm probably mispronouncing that terribly, and I'm sorry about that. Daniel Nicholas, super sick cover. Each issue is more professional than the previous one, which I have to agree. Uh, Modern comics are full of pretty pictures these days, but learning the storytelling of sequential art is far more important than anything else. So I have to agree, Daniel.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I appreciate about Jesse is that I think there are a lot of artists that make really good art and can do a really good pinup, really good cover. But one thing that has come up in our collaborative process with Jesse, and we've had back and forth about the storytelling aspect. Is, I mean, in my role as a writer, I truly believe that comics are a visual medium first and foremost. So I can script everything out, but if Jesse can't, kind of help with the charge of like making it all flow visually and make sense and be a good story that people can understand even without dialogue boxes or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're not really fulfilling the potential that comics have as a storytelling medium.
That's right. And without too many spoilers, what's a moment in issue 4 where you feel like your collaboration is really shining now?
So, we're relatively early on in the art process, but I think one of the things that kind of shows how we've worked together is that, you'll see some, a splash page or two in there. And on my end, the description is really short. And in the script, I just kind of tee up for Jesse, like, here's what I have in my head for this with like a line or two. And from there, I can just let Jesse cook because he knows
There you go.
he knows what he's doing at this point, and he understands like kind of the visual aesthetic that we have for Smarg so far, and because of that, like it makes my job really easy. But that's like one way I really think that it shows that we're meshing well.
Right. Oh, I think Jesse's entering again.
Yes, on a different device. Maybe that's the.
Hey, I think we're
Yeah.
all here. Hooray. Well, my next question for both of you is, do you ever disagree creatively? If so, how do you resolve it?
Jesse, you take that one. I have to think about it.
Well, I would say it's not so much that we disagree on anything. It's more so I just have some rough suggestions to not necessarily to improve. I guess it is to maybe
They're
improve
not
the flow
rough.
of the storytelling.
These are good suggestions.
Yeah, and they're basically just building off of what Paul has. I'm not trying to change what Paul has, but as a storyteller, there are some things where, and again, I think I talked about this the last issue or the last episode we were on, that I love that about Jim Shooter is that he always liked to drive home, like, let's make sure this is very clear, and maybe to a fault. He's a very controversial figure, but I really appreciate the idea that a comic should be able to be understood. You open the page to any book, you should be able to understand roughly what's going on. So anything that I think helps drive that home, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to make that suggestion. So, hey, maybe we should have, Jarjan say this phrase here just to remind everyone that he's there. Or maybe that maybe we need to reiterate that these two people are talking to each other. So just add one little phrase there. I don't make any recommendations so much with the artwork because Paul gives me some freedom there. But there are times when I'm like, hey, let's just make sure that there's no mistaking what's actually happening on the page. And it's probably like 4 or 5 per issue where I'll be like, hey, Paul, can we add this word balloon here? It's a little bit like Jack Kirby adding in the margins certain little things, but
There you go.
instead of Stanley not using any of it, Paul actually uses my recommendations.
Yeah, I think one of the really valuable parts that we have in our collaborative process is once I finish the draft, depending on how soon we get onto it, I might have like one other like editor read through it before Jesse and I do like a read on a video call ourselves. And during that process, one of the testing points, I think, things that I'm always shooting for is the dialogue to feel relatively natural.
Yes.
And to be able to go through the process of like reading aloud or reading at the same time as Jesse, that gives me a chance to think about it in a different way, but also we can know if the dialogue is hitting for Jesse, or if the panel descriptions make sense, or if there's a narrative beat that we think we need to hit harder by extending out the panels. That sort of collaborative process is where we come together first, and I think it really helps build the quality of the story.
Absolutely, it does. And now we get to delve a little bit into building issue 4, which what you're currently working on. How does issue 4 expand or deepen the world, the story compared to earlier issues?
Yeah, Jesse, I can take that one. So, the way we hit the ground running in issue 4 is a continuation of the last couple pages of issue 3. So what that means, we ended issue 3 with sort of the flashback to when Smarg meets a very important character, and also suffers some tragedy with the death of his parents. Spoilers for those who haven't read it, but definitely you should get on it. Like I said, we hit the ground running with the continuation of that scene, the flashback scene in issue 1, and there's some important moments. And then from there we kind of build up to a climax. We're going to have the largest moments of conflict taking place in issue 5, where we end our initial arc, but these are important story beats to get there and build up the heaviness of the fights to come.
Jesse, anything to add or no?
No, when it comes to explaining the story, I really like the way Paul works. At the table, I'm like, I drew the pictures. Paul, you give him the elevator pitch.
Right. I think that, is a good summary of our strengths. I feel like I don't sell as well, and hopefully maybe Jesse doesn't think he sells as well. If we're not at the same table together, because of the way we have kind of collaborated visually, and me being the words guy, we kind of have a nice 1-2 punch. I think when we're telling people and showing people the book at shows and whatnot.
That's right. And Jesse, this is more of a question for you. Is there any visual or storytelling risks or new things you're trying out in this particular issue or going forward?
Oh, let me think here. I don't think I'm taking any risks, because at this time in my career, I still have such an immense respect for the medium, and I still have such an immense respect for the creators that came
Oh,
before me. So I'm still drawing inspiration from the all-time greats, John Buscema, Neil Adams, and I still have not explored and treaded the ground that they have. So I'm not taking any risks right now, because I'm still trying to understand the medium as a whole. And it goes back to that old adage of first you learn the rules and then you can break them.
That's a great way to put it.
There is a character in this issue that has 4 arms and like 6 tentacles. So, I mean, anatomically, I might be taking some risks there.
Yeah, so there's no noses on Smarg. and then there's extra arms, and then there's tentacles, and but I get to draw great flowing hair, right?
We
Yeah.
got a comment
Oh,
from YouTube from Noggin Comics. I'm assuming that's some of your friends.
Yeah.
yeah. People on the show should check out their stuff. They do YouTube, have a blog as well. Talk like Comics for All. They like chatting pop culture and the stuff that's going on in the comic sphere.
Excellent.
Yes. Yeah. We just had a great show this weekend, the Minnesota Comic Exchange. There was a big storm in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and they were able to squeeze that in. Mother Nature held off. So there was a really great event. We're still kind of riding the buzz from that event. We had a lot of fun, chatted with a lot of people. Do you attend any conventions locally, Jameson, or do you make your way down to like the big ones in San Diego and stuff?
That's a good question. A little bit of both. I've gone to some of the smaller ones up here in the Sacramento region, and there's a ton of small ones too in the Bay Area. But since I've been unemployed, unfortunately, I haven't been able to. But in years past, a combination of both. I go to the small ones and the big ones. I get to go to the big ones every year. At least I try to. Not this year, unfortunately. But yeah, there's quite a few over here in California. So it's just kind of California has a great art scene and art culture and art schools. So there's a ton of things to do in terms of that.
Yeah, I love it.
Jason, you've been showing off that Comics the magazine that you got behind you.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm really happy that it's back. And shout out, know a couple members of the people on the team. And this is kind of a question for both of you. How do you balance, pacing in a single issue versus the larger story arc like you touched on, Paul?
Yeah, that's an important aspect because one of our goals when putting together our story arc is that, yeah, we have an outline and a plan for where we want to take off the plane and where we want to land it over the course of time, but it's really important, I think, for every issue to stand on its own as like a satisfying story. So to some extent, we do try to hit the expected story beats as the way you go, like a build up, some climactic action, and then there may or may not be some wind down depending on how fast we're going to hit the ground running the next issue. But sort of similar to the way that storytelling in like the 80s, for example, which, I think our art is pretty reminiscent of, was, that was very episodic storytelling. Like there'd be narrative threads that carry out throughout several issues or 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But a kid could go pick a comic book up off the shelf and go home and feel like, they read a pretty important story that just stands on its own. And that's, we're trying to accomplish those two things at once. And that's, and in order to make sure we do that, I mean, I asked Jesse, like, how's the pacing feel during our review process? And, he gives me some honest feedback. I, ask around, talk to some, other, again, like folks with an editorial eye on the script and try to get a sense if the story beats make sense, give the readers too much whiplash, or will let things breathe but also build.
And Jesse, any comments from you in terms of the artistic pacing in combination with Paul's scripting and writing?
I think the main thing with pacing, for anybody who is drawing and aspiring to draw comics, one of the lessons and it's one of those rules of thumb that you should, again, going back to the learn the rules before you break them. But Joe Kubert would always say, try not to have a figure the same size on the same page. So what that means is your camera work, you're going to want to zoom in, zoom out. There are some moments in fight scenes where the pacing, is served by having like the action play out in a certain way. But as a rule, as you're trying to figure things out, having that, changing up the camera angle, it can be tempting to just have medium shots of like talking heads, kind of like we are right now. It's tempting to do that. And I actually, in issue 1, and it's kind of funny, and this is why it's important to do comics, because you learn these things about pacing, not in the story, but in the production side of things. But in the final like 2 or 3 pages of issue 1, we were up against a deadline, and I did start to do more medium talking heads just to get the job done quickly. And those are the funny quirks that happen, and you learn from those things when you're making comics. I know that one of my favorite artists, Gene Colan, he did a lot of beautiful rendering. If you look up Gene Colan's art, he had this wonderful rendering. The backgrounds were lush and vibrant. His figure work was great. He had beautiful shadows on his figures, but he would always end up at this point where in the last like 5-6 pages, you could tell he was hitting a deadline because his work, there was no backgrounds. He quickly was less panels. Those are the funny little quirks that comic creators can relate to, and that's kind of what I deal with is more so just getting the camera, moving it around, making it interesting to look at, keep people engaged. I love editorial cartoons and comic strips, but
Oh,
this
yes.
isn't that. This is just a different medium and a different storytelling device. So it's kind of like, to me, I think of it as like the middle point between film and like the comic strip, like the newspaper comic strip. So comic books are kind of in the middle. There's a lot of cinematic energy to it that you aren't going to necessarily find on in the Sunday strips, but it's still, you're still confined to that 2D and drawing. So pacing is just, to me, is about thinking about the reader first. I think that's an important lesson as a creator that you should keep in mind, is think about the reader first, not just you. If I were reading a comic, kind of what would I want to be looking at? And would I want to, look at talking heads just going back and forth, for 25 minutes? It's like, no, I want to see something interesting. I want to be able to step back and look at beautiful art. I want to be able to, not be overwhelmed by backgrounds. Backgrounds are important, but eventually you learn, like, hey, you got to back off of those too a little bit too from time to time. So pacing is more so just about being selective about my camera angles and the amount of detail that I place.
So I recently reread Batman First Night by Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins, and I just want to see if I can, show this page off here a little bit. So like talking about pacing, like something I thought was really, really cool with this one is like, okay, so what's cool about comics is that, like, if you were to talk about this, image in like this page in prose, it'd be really easy or even typical for the author just to say Batman ran the prints, or like he dusted off, his tools and ran the prints. But like that process takes a really long time, and that page shows really interesting step-by-step processes of how he does it. And the fact that there's like 6 panels in the middle of the page going one by one through the entire process gives me, a reader, as a sense about the time and like the careful dedication that, Batman has to do to actually effectively run these prints. So I think that's just like a very cool trick that comics is uniquely positioned to pull off.
I have to agree. And this is a fun question for both of you. What artists or songs would be on the Smarg soundtrack / playlist?
Jesse, you literally made a Smarg number 3 Spotify.
Yes. Yep. And we didn't really pump it out as much as we wanted to. There were so many other things to deal with, but I thought that and we should do this with 4 as well, is all right, let's I got it pulled up right here.
Yeah, let it rip.
So some of the headliners here, some of the highlights. One is "Heavy Is the Crown" from Linkin Park's new album with their new vocalist. We kind of use that as kind of to showcase like the debut of the Jamie Coker Tyrus cover. So when you're on Instagram, you can kind of put different songs in there. So so like I kind of embrace that song. "Heavy Is the Crown." It's just a very aggressive and kind of in high energy Linkin Park song, and I really love that for him. So like we decided to add that to the list. "Rocket Man." I mean, I think that seeing Smarg zipping around the sky, it's easy to kind of place the connection there. We have "Pushing Me Away" by Linkin Park.
Nice.
"Invaders" by Iron Maiden. "Pain," Jimmy Eat World.
Nice.
"Never Scared," Bone Crusher, Killer Mike, T.I. "The Beginning of the End" by 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, that's a good one.
The Pretender, Foo Fighters. Ignorance by Paramore. I love that song. Miss Murder by AFI, and Hell for Heaven by Dingus, which shout out to Dingus. They are a local band here in the cities. They've been playing shows for a while, and there we go. They bought ad space on the back of each of our issues.
Very cool.
Clearly some cool guys there.
Yes. Yeah, we love you, Dingus.
Kind of going into a little bit more of the process, a little bit more. I know we've touched on a little bit, but for this particular issue, was it script first or visuals first? And did anything differ from previous issues in terms of starting off in that realm?
I mean, honestly, I think it'd be fun to try Marvel method, maybe at some point with Jesse. But we have done script first. I think like Jesse, I asked if there was something you wanted to draw this time, but I don't think there was like anything in particular that you had flagged for this one.
No, I think the story is kind of underway, and I kind of know what we're dealing with here, and I think that I'm okay with the direction that we're heading. So I really appreciate that you asked me what I wanted to draw, but I had so much fun with issue 3 that I'm just ready for more of that.
So all that is to say, we did script first on this one. I don't know. The scripts keep getting shorter and shorter because our working cadence is pretty solid at this point. So that's cool. Makes my life easier. Makes Jesse's worse. He has to think harder.
Right. Well, so far working on issue 4, what has been the most challenging part or component so far?
I mean, for me, one of the things that we really wanted to hit this issue was a sort of all is lost moment, something that will add to the heaviness of the emotional hit that occurs in this comic and adds weight to the final chapter that we'll be telling in issue 5. So trying to come up with something that met that goal in a way that was satisfying, to what I hope is satisfying for readers. Is that was challenging. I thought about it for a long time, and I've had different directions since. I knew the story beats that this was an important one to hit, going back all the way to issue 1. And as Jesse will know, I have talked about this plan with him for a while. Oh yeah, we got Jabs on. Hey guys.
Hey.
So, oh yeah, and I agree with Daniel, by the way, about first night and second night being master classes. People should definitely check those out, and not just because the writer is from Minnesota.
Right. I have read First Night. First Night was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's real good. And Second Night gets even better. So I think you should try to grab them if you can.
Yes. Now, delving a little bit into the character and themes, a little bit, what themes are starting to play out and emerge more in issue 4 that are either prevalent in 1 through 3 or just kind of emerging now in issue 4?
Yeah, the stakes are rising. And this is the reader's first introduction of Smarg as a character. And this is also Smarg's real introduction to being a big time superhero. And it does seem like over the course of time, superheroes have their own moments where they have to rise to the occasion, feel like they're earning the mantle that they hold, and this is like this through this story. We're hoping that one of the things to establish is like why Smarg is a superhero, why he's a worthy superhero. So yeah, that's really like the main thing that we're trying to hit in the big themes through that we see through issue 4 and hopefully through issue 5.
Excellent. This is a question more for Jesse. Are there any subtle details or Easter eggs that fans should look for in issue 4, Jesse?
Oh boy, nothing yet. But what we could do a better job of is finding a way to activate like that wild goose chase, because there are things that I share with Paul that are definitely Easter eggs that are kind of inside jokes between us. So like, but we don't ever really like put them out there or give, but we should have like a fun little, maybe like a little sheet that has through all the books, like the fun little like references. I think would be the best, because there will be like poses that I really like that I'll pull from, like, say, a Superman book, and the way that he's flying, I'll be like, hey Paul, check out Smarg. You know,
Yeah.
it's inspired by this panel from this book. And then there'll be other times where in the last book there is an uppercut fight where they're sparring, and you know what my reference was? A still from Mortal Kombat.
There you
Just
go.
the video game, just the uppercut and the guy blocking it, and that's all I had to do was just look at that, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. How do I draw an uppercut? Oh yeah, go look at someone who's already did
What you got, Paul?
I got an Easter egg. So I have a friend from work who made sure to read the first issue, and by then we also had the second issue out, and he was talking about how there's a particular animal in there, a bat rat, you could say. It's basically it's Jesse's brainchild of an animal, right? So he was in issue 1, and or that character, or that little creature, was in issue 1 when Smarg crashed the ground and scattered. As you know, if you imagine Spider-Man crashing the ground in New York, rats will scatter. This was the similar situation. And my friend from work is like, this is my favorite character. I want to see more Rat Bat, and I want to see, you know, a spin-off series of Bat Rat. And I was like, all right, tell you what, if you promise you'll get issue 3, I promise you that I'll make sure that Jesse draws the Bat Rat back in issue 3 again. So what I showed you was my hat tip to coworker John to make sure that Bat Rat made another appearance.
Without too many spoilers, and you touched on it a little bit, Paul, what does issue do? How does it set the stage for what's coming next beyond issue 4?
Yeah, so this is our lead up to the climactic final battle. The stakes are high. There's a big fight in this issue. I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but needless to say, the chessboard will be set for the final conflict.
Mm-hmm. And actually, too, something that you guys both mentioned before we got on, you guys have some other projects that you're working on. Who would like to take those first and kind of talk about some other projects you're working on?
Go for it, Jesse.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I haven't announced it yet, but I have a really cool project coming up that it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of pages, but I'm really excited to share it. Being an Indigenous comic artist, it was really exciting to be able to do a project that highlighted some Indigenous history. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I love researching. I'm a big nerd about history. So it's been a lot of fun doing a deep dive into some of these moments in time. And what I think is really cool is that, yes, there's biographies written already, but it's really special to be able to bring it to life in the comic book format. Mm-hmm. And I'm just really looking forward to that, to being able to breathe some extra life into this story. And I'll be announcing it probably when I'm a little further along in and maybe have permission to share some pages. But yeah, I'll have an announcement for that in the coming months here. I'm really excited about it. And but yeah, those are the kind of the two things that I'm working on: Smarg and then that upcoming project.
Yeah, excellent. And Jesse, don't undersell this project. Like, everybody should follow Jay Switters Creative on Instagram, because he's got, this is a cool opportunity, and a publisher, not Snow Day Press by Paul Hallgren. He's working with kind of some real folks on that one. So make sure to follow Jesse and check out this story.
Excellent. Paul, do you have any other creative projects you're wanting to talk about?
Yeah, I got, I think last time I was on the show, I talked about Apex, which will be, we have issue 1, the art is done, it's going through final editorial, and hopefully we'll have that, live digitally. And then our artist for that is working on issue 2, and we'll go to print on issue 1 once issue 2 itself is a little more fully baked. I recently kicked off a story with a fellow creator from the Midwest. This guy's based all the way in Wisconsin.
Hey.
Jeremy Hansen. We're working on a story called Render Blade, which I would sort of describe as like Deathstroke the Terminator fights the angels and demons of the pantheon of like Spawn's hell, like that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a little bit more supernatural and gritty and dark. And the artist I'm working with, Jeremy Hansen, you can also find him on Instagram. He's shown off some of the pages that he hand draws his pencils and inks them. And we're working with a guy named Bob Little, who's based in Canada. So going, touching international, going up across the border for this project. So we got a little bit of time yet. I think there's 4 pages so far that are penciled and inked out of 22. When we'll make sure to do a lot more announcements around that book as we get farther along.
Paul, I heard
Perfect.
Wisconsin,
And then the question,
I got excited.
I know Jesse's a Packers fan, and
I saw the Green Bay Packer.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, my follow-up is, do you guys have a tentative month or time frame for when issue 4 will be physically made?
Yes, we want it in people's hands for Free Comic Book Day.
Aha, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we do an event. Oh, you go ahead, Paul.
I was gonna say, well, we're working on getting some covers ahead of time for teasers as we go. We shared the one that you've used for the thumbnail here, which is by Jeremy Hansen, and with colors by Leonardo Pacioretty. So yeah, this is also sort of a preview of our interior artist for Render Blade. So if you like this, make sure to check that out as well.
Nice.
And other folks, we're working on getting some other covers done, and we'll show those off as we get closer to the publishing date as well.
Perfect. So far, in your experience as a creator, have you got to have any cool experiences either online or at conventions, with fans or other creators, experiencing your work, or anything along those lines you can share?
I mean, I think one of the coolest things that we come across at shows, particularly when we're together, is people want to try making their own comics, and we can honestly tell them that, like, hey, a couple of years ago we were in the same spot as you. Like, we hadn't published anything, hadn't put art out into the world in this medium before, and we're able to kind of be a resource to other aspiring creators that way, and lend some advice, because I don't know, especially now, I think people all over the world and here in Minnesota, I definitely know that art is a helpful outlet right now, and and making comics is fun. It's a cool journey, and we can help encourage people to cross that line for themselves.
Love that. In terms of upcoming convention appearances, any conventions on the schedule, additional podcast appearances, store signings, anything along those lines for either of you?
Yeah, Paul and I are going to be on a podcast coming up again, a local podcast based here in the Twin Cities. And we also are going to be doing SpringCon at the State Fairgrounds in June.
Nice.
And Free Comic Book Day, we're going to have another signing event up here in Duluth at Collectors Connection. It's an amazing shop, a beautiful, spacious space at the mall. And they're just great. They're so accommodating. They're so friendly and so enthusiastic about having, they can brag that they have a local artist. And they really do a great job of giving us premium shelf space, and
fantastic,
and as well as other local comic shops as well. It's just great to see us alongside all these other comics. We just kind of have found our place in the community, in the publishing ecosystem. We work really hard, and it's really exciting to send the book off to the printer, and then when you see it on the shelf, it's just exciting and also humbling, because, well, the real work is we have an audience and they have so many options and so many great books out there, and we just need to be ready for when we get our chance, and we need to just share that excitement and gratitude to the people that pick up our book. And we do, that's why we do the shows, is because we want to thank people in person, and we want to show that appreciation for them. Because if no one read my book, I don't think I would do it. I don't care how well Paul pays me. If no one reads our book, then like, what's the point, you know?
That's fair. And a question that just came to my mind, Paul and Jesse, now that you're approaching, kind of issue 5 with the arc, is there plans or ideas about doing like a trade, a collected volume of maybe the 4 or 5 issues?
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna try to put that together. I'm gonna send kind of some packages around to publishers and see if anybody's interested in picking it up. If
There you
not,
go.
we'll put it together. Make sure that we can put it together on our end too, and bring it around to shows. And one way or another, we'll put it in a trade paperback, because it'll be hopefully a good way to consume the story, and we'll have a fun cover gallery in the back, I think.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And the trades will get into libraries too. Just putting that out there.
Oh, better believe that we're gonna be hitting you up on that.
And you touched on it already, but Paul and Jesse, where can people find you online, follow you online, and follow along with all the things you're working on?
on Instagram, I'm J Switters Creative, just J, my last name, Creative. I post updates, and what we're going to do with issue 4 is we're being a little more intentional about sharing the process this time around. And it's so you'll get a little sneak peek at some of the cool panels that are coming up. We aren't going to
Yes.
spoil anything, but if there's action that we want to show you, we're going to share it. And there'll be a few times when we even open the floor up to a couple suggestions. Sometimes a panel I can't decide. I'm like, do I draw it this way or do I draw it that way? We might get some community engagement on. And
Right.
so pump the brakes. You're not going to get to choose who lives or dies in the story.
Yeah, this isn't Jason Todd situation. There's not gonna be a
But
phone
you-
line for you to
It's not
call.
choose your own ending,
No.
But you might get to choose the camera angle on a particular panel.
Okay. And my last question for both of you is one you've already answered, but it's still a fun one. What is your favorite snack or meal as a go-to to power yourself through working on some projects?
Paul, you go first.
Yeah, for me, I mean, definitely coffee. Always coffee. Could use some more coffee. Um,
I'll even chew
And-
on it, won't you? You'll chew on the beans.
exactly, and it's like want to use all parts of the resource. Besides that, a lot of my work happens at night, so I try not to snack too much at night. But I'll usually have like an apple or something to hold me over if my blood sugar's getting low.
And I do not like working hungry, so I'll usually eat before I start digging in. I'll dig in before I start digging in. So my snack of choice is that at the grocery store here, they have this delicious like nacho platter thing. And so like I love just smashing, one of those. And then also pizza. I'd like a good extra pepperoni pizza because it just I tacos, pizza, nachos, like those are like the trifecta for me. And you can't go wrong with any of them. And while I'm working, we love to have those little Welch's fruit snacks. So those are a nice
No,
little
delicious.
snack it's not quite candy. It probably pretty much is, but it doesn't feel like eating Skittles. I don't feel bad for eating them, but that's my little munchie go-to while I'm drawing.
Perfect. Well, I'd love to have you guys both on again after issue 4 comes out, and we can delve into, issue 4 and kind of where the story stands after that, if you guys are open to it.
Oh, 100%.
Yep, I'm totally open to it. Thank you for working with me through those early technical difficulties. And if anybody's wondering why I'm blurry, it is because I have a new screen protector on my iPad, and it's got a paper texture on it. So that's something different this time around. I'm drawing with like a paper texture, but the thing is, I grabbed the wrong one and it covered up my camera. So I'm waiting on the new one to order it so that I can get it repositioned so that it's not covering it up. So that's why I'm blurry. But thank you.
It's a compelling dramatic effect. That's what
Yes.
I can say
It
that
is.
much.
Got a
It's almost
halo
got like
going
that.
here.
It's almost like that
Yeah.
sepia tone or sepia tone, however you pronounce it.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. We can't wait to share with you issue 4 when we have it done.
That's right. Paul, any last thoughts you'd like to share before we head out?
No, I mean, I'll just say, we appreciate the support of our community, and Jameson, thanks for giving us a platform to talk to hopefully some more people about our book.
Of course. Everybody out there, thanks for sticking with us through this whole hour and some of the technical challenges we had, but it's been a great conversation, great engagement. And this has been Comics for All, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. And we'll see you next time. Take care.